Welcome to Leadership, the secret sauce, where extraordinary coaches and leaders reveal what makes them exceptional. We're your hosts, Dave Lipsky and Matt Dodson. Together, let's discover our guest's secret sauce. Today's episode is brought to you by Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. At Character Matters, we believe great leadership isn't just about results. It's about who you become along the way. From career transitions to team building, we help leaders unlock clarity, build resilience, and lead authentically. Because when character grows, impact follows. Visit charactermatterscoaching.com. Today's episode is supported completely unofficially by a community we deeply believe in, the International Coaching Federation's Coaching in Organizations. If you're building or leading an internal coaching program, this is where your people find their people. It's a space to swap real stories, sharpen your craft, and stay connected to what's emerging in our field. If you haven't joined yet, take a moment to sign up and plug into the conversations shaping the future of organizational coaching. Your community is waiting, and they're ready to learn with you. Go to coachingfederation.org/coaching-in-organizations-inquiry to get started. All right, and welcome in. Today, we're sitting down with Doug Crandall to uncover his secret sauce of leadership and coaching. We're going to get into his story, his challenges, the things he's learned along the way. I think you, if anybody who knows Coach Lipsky and I knows a little bit about us, our background, maybe even our kids, or even the locations where we are, right in the back door of West Point Military Academy, or is familiar with Thayer or anything like that we have, I think you'll want to stick around and listen to Doug. So we are going to ask Doug some questions about some of his upbringing. Anyway, so with that, Dave, why don't you introduce our guest?
I want to welcome Doug. My normal location is I'm looking over at the mountain across from West Point by the Woodbury Commons. So each year we sit and we watch people parachute out, and then we have the pleasure of the practice gunnery sessions.
Yeah,
So,
very familiar with both Woodbury Common and the practice gunnery.
All my kids got jobs there, so I have to thank the Woodbury Commons for that.
Right.
So, Doug, on a scale from 1 to 10, your energy level, 1 being low, 10 being high, where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm probably like a 7. Just right now, it's early in the morning, and Dave, I think before we came on, you mentioned your grandkids. My wife and I just spent 2 days at Disneyland in California with our granddaughter and our oldest son and daughter-in-law. And took it out of me a little bit. So, but I'm here for you, and I'm bringing it up,
Gutting it out.
I listen. Did you hit 20,000 steps at Disney?
Absolutely.
That's a full day. I remember those days. Matt, how about you? Where's your energy level?
I'm at a 9. I would just say straight up 9.
You're at a 9. What has you at a 9?
I woke up extra early, like 4:45 this morning, and got my first cup of coffee. I'm ready to go. I've had some incredible learnings in the last, 24 or 48 hours. So I'm soaking it up.
Life is about learning.
Oh man. Yeah.
I think I'm about in between you guys at around an 8. I am outside of Boston helping to babysit my grandchild, having the delight and energizing and forgetting everything once I hold her, which is fabulous. It's like therapy. And I'm excited to be here. Doug, just starting off, I'd like to start off with some just a quick question, but Matt and I created this because we like talking to coaches, learning about their secret sauce, what makes them tick, and just generally that we started it so that we can continue to do that. When you are traveling on planes, trains, automobiles, mostly the monorail in Disney, I'll say, and somebody in Disney turns to you and says, "Oh, hi, what do you do, Doug?" How do you describe it?
Yeah, that's a great. I simply say I'm a teacher and I teach leadership. I'm almost uncomfortable saying that because I think it gives people an image in their mind of you stand up in front of people and tell them how to lead. But that's the most simple way I can say it now is I deliver leadership and create content and teach leadership.
Nice. That's simple. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I actually came in late last night from this Disney trip, and our youngest son, who's 23, has his college friends come like once a summer and hang out at our house. And so we walked in, and they all joke that I'm in the CIA because no one can understand what I do. Like, he can't explain it, and I travel all the time and stuff. So they were joking again last night that you're coming back from a CIA trip. I assure you, I'm not in the CIA, but obviously not that great at also at describing what I do.
See, that's good, Doug, because my youngest is also 23, and we live close to a CIA, but it's the Culinary Institute of America.
Yeah,
And I can't cook anything, so nobody is confused.
Also a great place.
Yes. I think for many years when I worked at Chevron, my kids really thought I worked at a gas station, petroleum transfer engineer. And so no problem with that. But yeah, hard to understand what exactly do you do. Doug, one of our big questions is around your secret sauce. And so what we'd like to know is, as you've thought about it, what is your secret sauce?
Matt, kind of thinking about this, especially the title of your show, no false humility. This question makes me uncomfortable because it's hard to say for me, like, hey, I've got some sort of secret sauce. I would answer it in a couple of ways. One, from the perspective of what I do, teaching leadership. I think we do have a secret sauce, I'll say, at the referent group, which is we don't tell anybody how to lead. And we make that very clear. It's a little harder to sell. Fortunately, that's not my job primarily. But we don't make any promises. It's really about meaning making and reflection and people deciding for themselves how to be as leaders. And we facilitate that process. And in the qualitative feedback we received for a couple of decades now, it seems just to resonate. It's just different than what people are familiar with. This idea that we are helping you along on a journey of your own meaning making and learnings, as we started off saying. So that's I think that's it for me as a teacher. I mean, maybe I'd even leave it there because I am comfortable with that one. I think personally, I'm just uncomfortable with the question. I have so many non-secret sauces and things that over time I've had to just try to reflect on and get better at myself, and so many failures. But with that, with teaching, pretty comfortable sharing. I do think that makes us different.
Maybe you could share a little bit with our audiences, like, how did the referent group get there? It didn't start there, right? So whether that was through your service to the country, and then how did you arrive at the referent group?
Yeah, I think, so me, big part of my journey, bringing it back to what very common is through West Point. And I'm not from a military family per se, because I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And my dad did his service commitment actually in the Army after graduating from West Point. So he had gotten out of the Army in, I think the late 50s, and I wasn't born until over a decade later. So I was not like a military brat that moved around, but I was very familiar with the fact that my dad, and then also my mom's dad, went to West Point. And my mom's dad died trying to escape from a Japanese prison ship in Pacific Theater in World War II. He literally went through a porthole of a bathroom after being on one of these hell ships for months, and was shot trying to swim away in a bay. And so for me, there was this service aspect and being connected to West Point. And I, from middle school on, kind of wanted to go there. And I don't know why, but I always had this just desire to understand leadership, to get better as a leader, even when I was 14 years old. And so it was sort of a natural progression. Really proud of my daughter. She actually graduated in 22. So she's a 4th generation West Point graduate. And then I've, other than Bellevue, Washington, where I live, I've spent 10 years living at West Point. 2 different teaching stints there. And it's really the first time teaching there from 2003 to 2008 that I was just blessed to run into some awesome mentors who helped me look at leader development in a way that I'd never considered, and use these words like meaning making and reflection as part of the process. And it wasn't even exactly how we taught it. I taught the core leadership course that all the juniors take. And there was some prescription there in the way we did things. But, I'll call out a gentleman named Scott Snook, who's been a lecturer at Harvard Business School for a couple of decades now, but he's a retired colonel, was actually shot by some friendly fire in the invasion of, I believe it was, of Grenada back in the early 80s. And Scott he's brilliant, and have just had the fortune of having lots of conversations with him and reading stuff he wrote. So that really shaped me. I mean, I came out of graduate school not really knowing what teaching looked like, and just developed over the next number of years a belief that teaching is not about you at all. It's not about, at least with leadership, it's not about standing up there and sharing your points about leadership. It's about creating discussion and getting people to reflect.
And so let me just sort of connect that dot. Okay, so you leave graduate school, you leave military service, and then like did someone just say, hey, would you be willing to come and like after you've taught at West Point now, hey, would you come and talk about this? Like, how did that, how did that
This is
evolve?
where we go into the just incredibly blessed part of the journey. It was some flame out. So I actually went to work at Amazon coming out of there. I was looking for a place where I could take 5 years teaching leadership and reflecting on it, and felt like I had grown as a leader as well. And how do I now go in and lead other people? So I went into operation, and it was just a cultural mismatch both ways, right? Like, I mean, Amazon's a phenomenal company. I got Amazon box sitting right here, and I'll order from them tomorrow and I'll get it the next day. Like, if I had still had the restricted stock units, who knows what I'd be doing. But I only lasted 10 months because there were a lot of things I didn't understand about corporate culture at the time, and then just ways it wasn't a fit. So I actually left to write a book, of all things, with a guy named Scotty Smiley, who had lost his eyesight in Iraq. It was another place that Scott Snook came into my life and kind of helped me guide meaning making for Scotty, as we wrote it in his first person. And he shared his journey of being the Army's first active duty blind officer. And so just something that was an opportunity I took with the support of my wife. Amazing that we had 4 kids, and kind of just left Amazon and went to do that, and hoped it would all work out. And I honestly, I started with a local community college. I ran into a guy named Rich Cummins, and he was really interested in building leader development locally in an area called the Tri-Cities, Washington. And we drove around one summer and recruited people for an open enrollment program, but ended up putting 25 people together. I was teaching at the college, and I got this phone call. I mean, you said, did someone walk up to you? I literally got a phone call in the office at the college, which I went like once a week. They had an office for me, but I had arranged it so I got to be a teacher and didn't have to do some of the bureaucratic things I didn't want to do, and got a phone call from a guy named James Cameron, and they were looking for someone to come help them build the high potential leadership program at Walmart. And I flew out to New York, met with a guy, kind of turned me off a little bit. I'm just not, it just wasn't, it felt like another cultural mismatch, and I was wary of that. And then James called me again. He's like, just come to Bentonville, Arkansas. Just visit me, visit here. Come see what it's like one time, please. And James was awesome. Like he was just the most candid, almost stereotypical Brit who said what he thought in ways that just made me laugh. They were could have been offensive, but they just made me laugh, and ended up doing that for 7 years. So I was a contractor for Walmart, but had this incredible experience of getting to build, deliver. We would travel to California and visit Google. I remember visiting Facebook and just being blown away by their campus in 2010. We visited Apple, met Marissa Mayer at Yahoo. Walmart opened all these incredible things that I just got to be on the ride along with. And really cool. Looking back 15 years later, there are a bunch of people that went through that program who are now CEO of Walmart Chile and the EVP of merchandising, and just a really cool position. So now, that really gave me a flexibility for 7 years with kind of an anchor contract to start writing a little bit, get involved in other leader development stuff.
That's wild. That's an amazing story. Always looking back. But in the middle of it, what did it feel like in the middle of it? Did you recognize what was going on, or you're like, hey, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other?
Nah, man, I don't know how personal we get on this show, but in the middle of it, I was literally depressed. At Amazon, face down on the floor in my bedroom. My wife saying, think about Scotty, the guy I wrote the book with, because this guy had lost his eyesight, had so much joy, and was persisting, and simple stuff is bringing me to my lower than my knees. So no, I can't claim to be a person who's ever had a strategic plan. The question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? has been one I threw out a long time ago because I got no idea. So yeah, it was a really hard journey at times. And that's why I started off the whole story saying blessed, because I can't almost believe how fortunate I've been the way it worked out. Even to the point where a few years ago, I was a high school basketball coach and lost the job in a really painful way. And 3 games into the season, was not told why. I won't get into it. It's a really long story, but it was painful. But I got the opportunity to go back to teach at West Point as a civilian as a result of that. I never would have had the freedom to take this job that I saw that popped up on LinkedIn. That never happens. They just needed someone for 1 year, no moving expenses, just 10 months. And my wife and I were empty nesters. And like, I'll do that. That's a dream. Never would have been able to do that if this other thing hadn't happened that felt so painful at the time. So I can't even, I feel guilty talking about it because it's worked out. And that's a lesson, that I don't share it in sort of a cliche way. And I think, I got to be careful with stuff like that, because there are things that happen in our lives that aren't, they're just painful and they're not going to work out in some positive way. So I'm trying to be empathetic about that. But for me, some things have just fallen into place.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing it. And I wanted to thank you for your service. And my dad, stepdad served in Korea, and then my biological dad was on the Midway. And I look at West Point outside my window. I coached with a couple of people from West Point, and then I volunteered to do coach supervision for a local organization that helps vets transition. And that transition is so challenging. And and you said something that really caught my attention, which is you came out of the military, and then the intersection of like moving into a corporate environment, and it's really difficult to support our veterans in that transition. So I'm wondering if you can speak to like what is that transition, and what's the difference between the model you're experiencing for 12 years and then these other models that are just different?
It's a great question, Dave. I mean, I like to clear up front too. I did not serve in combat, and I say that I think because it's an important thing to say. I don't want to take that credit, and yet it was still super hard. So people, and I think the reason I highlight that is for me. And I try to make clear, like, I'm being anecdotal, this isn't peer-reviewed research. It's Doug Crandall's experience. But I didn't feel like I was, bleeding Army green. I mean, I love the people. I love the service. I love our country. But I think why that's such an important lesson is it hit me nonetheless. Even though I wanted to get out of the Army, I thought I was ready to transition. I think it's just, there's so much purpose in what you're doing. And then when you do it, I ended up doing it for the better part of 17 years between my West Point experience and serving in the Army. And I don't want to diminish like what you're doing outside it, but all of a sudden it's like, what's my purpose now? Like, is it to get Xboxes to people on time? And so you just have to kind of rediscover. Like, I think when you're in the Army, whether you're teaching at West Point or whether you're on the front lines, you feel like I'm serving some sort of something bigger than myself, something that matters. And so I had this, and I had this beautiful office that overlooked the Hudson River. I worked for the dean for the last couple of years I was there. So I had an office I didn't deserve. And actually they literally gave it to a colonel after I left. They're like, why does some major have this office? And I wasn't appreciating it at the time. And I went to wearing flip-flops and shorts and a T-shirt to work, which was great. Like, it was comfortable, but it felt so different. And I think even just those environmental changes. And then the big thing for me, and I'm not saying this is everywhere, is in the Army, when you lead in the Army, everything about the people you lead is your responsibility. Whether you literally do health and welfare checks at their homes to make sure they're taking care of their family in certain cases. If they're not getting paid, you stop doing whatever you're doing until they're getting their paycheck. I think if you're leading well in the Army, like everything, it's all about people. I just didn't get, I didn't get HR, and I'm not putting it down. I didn't get it. Like, what do you mean HR takes care of my people's pay? Like, I take care of their pay. Like, and I kind of decide when they go on leave and stuff like that. And so, all these things where I was so fired up to go lead people, I think that it just was different. It was just, I just didn't understand the context. And you can absolutely still lead people and have a big impact. I just wasn't ready for how that changed so quickly. So those two things really hit it for me. People were kind of my purpose. Something bigger than myself was my purpose. And those were all of a sudden just like huge holes in my life that I struggled with. So I think that's Doug Crandall. But I think the purpose thing for sure, like anyone coming out of the military, whatever job they're coming to, they've got to feel like they're connected to something bigger.
Yeah. Doug, just appreciate all your stories, because I think it's actually really helpful. especially with some of our listeners, that there is a disconnect. You had mentioned it a couple times, use the word cultural fit. I think sometimes when people feel like they're in a transition, they just wonder, hey, look, is this culture fit right? Is this, or has something changed inside their company culture? They're like, hey, I don't fit there anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times post reorganization I've talked to leaders and they're like, maybe this isn't the place for me anymore. So what do you think as far as, if leadership is changing or if it's staying the same, but some of the circumstances are changing? What do you think someone like yourself or other coaches need to do to kind of to stay relevant with the changing cultural or the leadership landscape?
Boy, that's a great question, Matt. I mean, I'm sort of immutable, and like in this time and a couple of decades of teaching this stuff, this immutable principle of like we always start with what you believe and why you believe it. And I mean, you asked a question about how we should change, and so I'm not answering it exactly like you asked it, but I think that anyone doing the work we do, whether on an individual level or kind of me doing it collectively, anchoring people, just continuing to go back to, again, it sounds cliche, but like, what are your core values? Like, what are those 4 or 5 things that, I mean, that's where the cultural clashes come in when all of a sudden something that I believe at my core, and for me, it was actually this idea of like caring about people in a culture that, I don't think I'm denigrating Amazon here. I think they would probably say it, that didn't really care about people that much. Like it had grand visions of innovation and serving customers, but people weren't really the focus inside, at least the operational part of it. And so that was just this huge clash for me. And I think like had I had a coach at the time, I think that coach could have helped me without the pain that I kind of experienced by ending up on the floor. Just sort through, well, look, like your people's kind of one of this core things for you. It's not in this culture you're in. Either you're going to change the culture individually, like you're going to change all of Amazon, or you're in the wrong place, right? And like that's a message. Even when we're teaching programs that the people are paying us to come in, and we're teaching some of their high potential leaders, we will say that. Like, look, if what you get out of this program is that these are the 4 things you truly believe, and here's the stories attached to like why you believe it, and you're looking around and that doesn't really fit, like either anymore or it didn't fit in the first place, then you're in the wrong place and you're never going to be the best leader possible. It's not the best thing for the organization you work for, and it's not the best thing for you. So I don't think we can anticipate all the things that are going to be different in 2035 or 20, even 2 years from now, with the way AI is moving and the way leadership is changing. But staying true to that idea that, and I think that the fact that it's 4 or 5 core things is important too. Like if you have 24 of them, you're not going to fit anywhere, right? You're never going to find somewhere that fits everything. But if you can find the 4 or 5 things, you're just going to, whether it's people or like, I love to be innovative, or I say what I think, or, integrity, whatever it might be, family. And so there's got to be this balance. Have those 4 or 5 and then be adaptable about everything else. Because ultimately it's about the people you lead and the mission you're serving. So that.
Yeah. Doug, you had mentioned something, and I just said, we see a lot of company values that are stated, but not lived. I would imagine if I were to look at several companies that we've all been a part of, the stated values are people first. But the practiced, at what level does that get to? Like, is it your individual supervisor? So like, I think you're just to kind of connect, like, Monte, my son, who will be commissioned as an officer in a year, if finishing up Virginia Tech, he said, Dad, I don't know, like being a leader, an officer in the Army is a high bar. I get it. I get it. The sacrifice. Now, when he mentioned that, I was like, dude, like in a company, it's so like, anyway, there's a lot of people that are leaders. Like, what's the big deal? But his thinking is like, you care for the whole person. Like, and that we could say we put people first, but in companies, I don't think we're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about, yeah.
I love that your son has that perspective. I mean, a side note, I mean, that's great job on the Hokies and great job for your son. Like that's exactly what our Army needs, our military needs is young men and women going into it with that perspective. In a lot of the teaching, I've tried to tone back. I mean, there's a few little things that you get used to. You almost get in kind of a pattern of doing things. And I've tried to strip away even the couple last things we have left where I'm a little bit sarcastic or a little bit cynical just because I don't think it serves a purpose. But one of the last vestiges of that is around the way I would talk about this idea of company values and that and I still think it's true. They shouldn't spell anything. You know, if you get lucky and they spell shape or they spell hero, then you got lucky. But if they spell something, they're probably not
Ship.
really your 5 values or your 4 values. Or if they all start with the same letter, they're probably not. So you see so much of that, or you see 23 things listed on the wall that they can't be true. And so, to that point, I think are there companies? I think there are. Like, I think it's hard as you get bigger, but I've been part of some really big corporate cultures, and you can feel the difference. I mean, maybe it's not at the bottom, at the end, like we got to report to shareholders, and there's the quarterly rhythm and all this stuff that drives what we're doing. But I have felt the difference inside a bunch of different organizations. It absolutely comes from the top. I mean, no place that has a culture that feels like we care about people or integrity or whatever it might be has a leader that doesn't, no matter what we say. And so then it bleeds down. And I think going to an individual manager, you can absolutely work in some big culture and a leader can take care of people, but it's going to be hard on that leader, even if you don't see it. Like if you work for them, they're taking care of you. They're fighting a bunch of battles upward to take care of you that are going to wear them out. So I don't want to name the names, but I think I could actually name some names and like this one didn't care about people and this one does, even if they do it imperfectly. So it's probably rare, but I think you can find the right spot.
Yeah, I had this. It's very when you say that there's something that's resonating about the ownership and distance between a leader and their people. And I had the privilege of teaching some programs at Bentonville and with store managers, and that role, like the store managers, like you could feel like when they came in with their leadership issues, they owned everything in the store, right? And they would also work the most sleep deprivation I've ever experienced. They would work 24/7, but you felt like they were responsible, and you don't feel that in every organization. Right? I think that's different. And I don't know if it's by culture or by role or what, or by person.
I love that you brought up that example, Dave. And I think I used to say that, Walmart, my oldest son's actually working at Walmart right now. And Walmart, to him, is probably not much bigger than his store manager. And the store manager is an enormous job. It's an important job, but like you got 400 people working for it. And so whether they perceive Walmart as a culture that cares about people depends almost entirely on that store manager. Like it's not much bigger than that to them. And that store manager can create a culture in that store that cares about people. Now, there are processes and systems and everything that either will go against that or support that. But that's a great example. It's almost like having your own, ship on the ocean where, go to the Navy, like whether you feel like people care about you or not, or like that's kind of a large public debate right now, even is based on systems, but also just about the captain that leads that ship, how they treat their people. And I think those are really attractive jobs. Like as a leader, where do I find this job where I've got my ship and I set this culture and how it feels. And if I care about people, I can set one that cares about people.
Doug, what's a bold idea either about leadership or coaching that you have that maybe not everybody agrees with? Like when you guys present through Referent.
Yeah, this is another one where I've been reflecting on. I don't want. The title of the book that I just recently wrote is "Building or Diminishing," and the idea is that this is not what I'm saying, but I'm prefacing a little bit. That with everything we're doing, we're either building or diminishing those we lead, and I've really taken that to heart with teaching. Like even as far as like I used to make jokes about like cats, and I have to say it as an example, but I don't even make those anymore because there are cat lovers in the audience, and there's just no reason to offend people or whatever. You don't have to do it. So I've thought about with this phrase because I don't want people to feel diminished by it, but I 100% believe there are no leadership experts. And we say that, and there are people who list themselves as leadership experts, and I'm not trying to judge those people or put them down, but I am not, the only person I'm an expert on is Doug Crandall. You know, like, I mean, the experiences I've had, the personality I have, I'm an introvert. I'm not that funny. I don't have like a bunch of charisma when I walk in a room. I have my set of core values, my life experiences. I cannot tell, you know, the young woman from Wyoming who grew up in a single parent household and has been through all these things, and she's an extrovert and has a bunch of charisma, like how she should lead. It's just, to me, I mean, if I want to go really far, it's almost kind of silly. Like and we love, I think people like certainty, and they like simplicity, and I get that, and like to help people along, we've got to maybe package things in ways that make them digestible. But it's just part of that secret sauce we mentioned earlier. Like, we just will not stand in front of people and tell them how to lead, because it goes back. There's a construct that we learned at West Point when I first teaching there that I thought was so simple that I kind of cast it aside for actually like almost 2 decades. And it was in the front of our syllabus that we handed out to these juniors at West Point. It seemed like it was fit for juniors at West Point. And it was leader-led situation. And it was this little Venn diagram, and it said everything you do is a function of 3 things: the leader, who you're leading, and the situation you're in. And I've gone back to it and have a slide with it now to show there are an infinite combination of those things, and they are going to bring you different challenges every time you're inside the small part of that Venn diagram that brings those 3 things together. And so whether it's a pandemic, we do a lot of work in healthcare, like leadership the day before the pandemic at a hospital in Kentucky was entirely different than the next day and the next couple of years. And so there just aren't. I just don't believe there's leadership experts. I think we should all tone that back. Like, it's nice to say about yourself or whatever, to pitch yourself, but I think that stepping back, all we can do is kind of share studies, to share wisdom. Like, there's plenty of leadership wisdom out there, and we should listen to people with that wisdom. I'm not saying that the person who just retired as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff can't help Doug Crandall like lead a little bit better. Absolutely, but not an expert on how Doug Crandall needs to lead.
Doug, if you had to define or design your ideal coach that you would want, what would they need to be like? Like, what do you really love in a coach?
That's funny, man, because so quickly inside my own subconscious, I started thinking about like me, like, oh, the ideal coach would look a lot like me. I don't think that's the right answer. I'm just staring like what was going on in my head. Now I'm going to say these things that I think are me, but aren't necessarily. Well, I do think, as we've talked even from the beginning of you saying you've had learnings in the last 24 or 48 hours, like just someone who is laser focused on helping me make meaning of my own experiences, and not necessarily providing answers, as you guys know from the work you do, but helping me think through my own questions and answer my own questions. I think there's a little bit on the other side. I need to not feel judged. That's just me. I do think it's a fairly generalized human need, even going to the idea of using the therapy principle of unconditional positive regard. Like, I'm going to care about you no matter what you tell me. I'm going to help you through this. Coaches are not therapists, and that's not what they're there to do, but you're sharing, ideally as a leader, the stuff you screwed up yesterday and some of the big mistakes you've made, and you're being vulnerable. So a lack of judgment, and then a reciprocal vulnerability. I don't know what that looks like in every instance, because it's not about the coach, but hey, I screwed this up. I had this really interesting conversation when I was teaching, I think it was last week, at a small company just up the street. And we were talking about how you'll make a mistake and your leader might say, oh yeah, I've made mistakes too. And yet this one woman says she finds it so much more powerful when that leader can say, oh, here's what I screwed up and what it specifically was. Now it's not just, yeah, I've made mistakes too, but yeah, like I went back to I love the TV show The Bear. And if you haven't seen it, I'm probably wasting people's time in the audience, but there's a scene where Carmy comes out, and this pastry chef has just create a fire in the kitchen, and he's all down. Carmy, for those who've seen the show, is one of the world's best chefs, and he kneels down and looks him in the eye and says like, yeah, I started a fire once too. And the guy's just like blown away that Carmi's made that mistake as well. And it immediately diffuses the situation and makes him feel better. And, then he pushes him forward and like says, yeah, go get it, man. But I think that sort of vulnerability where you're truly, and then if they happen, it's also, I think one thing, I think it's easier to share mistakes that happened when you were 25, that happened 3 decades ago. You can say something that happened 2 years ago. That helps as well. Like, I don't know, that's a coach's primary job is to make you feel better by talking a lot. But I think that vulnerability, a lack of judgment, and then helping me make meaning are the things I'd be looking for.
Yeah. Doug, beyond sort of books, and we would be interested in your books, but beyond books, what are some unconventional resources or podcasts or things that you like to recommend? Now, you've got some things behind you. I see Atomic Habits. I see The Fifth Discipline. I see, is that Goggins' book, Extreme Ownership? Is that
that is Jocko Willink? Yeah.
Oh, Jocko Willink. Okay, yeah. So, what would you recommend to the leaders that you coach or interact with?
When I'm exercising, I've been listening to the Acquired podcast a lot lately, which is these incredibly long. They're 4-hour episodes mostly, so you can listen to it over the course of a number of workouts. But I can't think of their last names, but these guys, Ben and Dave, they've been doing it for 10 years now, and they just go through the histories of like companies we've all heard of. So the one I've been listening to lately was Disney, and I listened to one where they don't do this often. It's not part of their format, but they actually had Howard Schultz on to go through the Starbucks episode, and I actually took something directly from that episode and put it in the book that I just finished. So that's great. I used to tell cadets, I'd love to ruin you for leadership so that you can't do almost anything you're doing without extracting a leadership lesson. And so like Acquired podcast, I'm not listening to it for leadership lessons, but I'm hearing it. But I'm also not watching The Bear for leadership lessons, but I couldn't stop extracting lessons out of The Bear or Ted Lasso or places that are a little more familiar. So I just think there's this muscle we can build if we love leadership and we are actively engaged in it, where almost anything we're doing, the youth sports team we're coaching, the movie we're watching, the conversation we're having with a friend, we extract leadership lessons out of it. But directly to your question, I think that Acquired podcast is really good. And I actually, I'd recommend people go watch The Bear. It's fairly intense. Band of Brothers, if people have never seen Band of Brothers, you cannot, it's just 10 hours of content and like thinking about leadership. So those are a couple for me.
Nice. Doug, before I ask you sort of how best to get a hold of you, Dave and I like to sort of reflect on what we heard. Dave, what did you hear, what Doug had to share? What came out to you?
I heard so many things, but there's also as soon as Doug said cat people and dog people, I'm at my son's and they're cat people, and there's a cat that's wanting to occupy space right now, and we're dog people. But now I have grandkids, so I'm everything. I think what really, so many things stuck for me, Doug. There's something about this space between leaders and the people they lead. Like that's a connected space that we can either create obstacles to that connected space by the cultures we create, the organizational system, like everything we put in place. And something you said, and in terms of like building up and diminishing, it's like, as a leader, if you don't have that connected space, you can't lead. So I really love like that you shared that, and then your career is it's a career of resilience, and I really appreciate that. And I think we don't teach resilience early enough, and what I love, like I think the safe space where you were able to like learn some of that is really important. And I don't think everybody has that space, but it's important that we build it. So thank you so much for sharing those things.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. I think for me, besides Dave the cat in the background, I think I have a bumper sticker on my truck that says, "Tell your cat I said, pss, 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 pss." So if you don't mind, is
That was the name of the first cat that
yeah.
we adopted because we never had a name. It was
But anyway, I think the other I maybe just something an offhanded comment about the basketball team that pulled you after a few games. I think I learned so much from that. One is around staying teachable and even open to what comes next. Either immediately following or what opens for me when something else either closes or is done. And that sort of teachability, I think, is I think it's a mindset and it's a willingness to go, okay, there's something that I need to learn. What am I learning? And that sort of I would describe it as a malleability. And that's what I hear, even not having a 5-year strategic plan. Yeah. Oh, it's just really okay. And I think that's that's what I took away from what you said. So yeah.
I appreciate that, man. It's interesting. Thank you both for the comments. I mean, I had this moment. I share the story a lot when I was a young lieutenant in the Army. We were at the Joint Readiness Training Center in Louisiana, and to keep it short, there's awesome. But I almost fired a tank round, just to keep it short, in a live fire exercise that we had been told the night before not to fire when we saw the first vehicle. And I went through the fire commands. I was a tenth a second away from saying fire. That could have killed some infantry soldiers that were in the distance. At the very least, I would have been relieved. No question. I would not, my entire life would have been different. And when I look at like the lesson of that, this is the point in terms of like just learning. I didn't think about it a ton until I went back and had this opportunity to go to graduate school. And my whole job was going to be like helping other people reflect on their experiences. And there wasn't a lot, like it was kind of a stupid construct. Like they shouldn't have had us go to bed, wake up, have our adrenaline pumping, come around a corner and not fire at the vehicle for artificial reasons. So I didn't feel like horrible about it. We didn't end up firing it. Everything went well in the end because a sergeant in the Humvee behind us said, "Don't fire at that one," right before I was about to fire. And he couldn't actually hear our internal current communications. He just saw our big gun tube turn and thought maybe we were about to fire it. Ended up writing an entire book called Say Anything, later retitled Permission to Speak Freely, about how when you're the leader, people should be able to say anything to you, kind of based on that experience. Like, what can I extract from this? Because it was such a powerful experience in my life. I mean, the first 100 times I told the story, it would bring up a bunch of emotions and, make me feel like this could have been life-changing. And ultimately my lesson was, boy, I'm glad that sergeant felt empowered to just say, don't fire at that one. And then I'd been a lieutenant colonel instead of a lieutenant, he might have waited 2 seconds. And if I'd been a general, he never would have said it, right? Like, so just how do we create these cultures? But so like, to that point, I think somewhere I was given this gift of just sitting back that a lot of people don't get for several years, actually, and just thinking about a lot of things that I'd been through. But what I guess I'll give myself a little bit of credit for is it would have been a waste. We had a woman in class one time who said, "Imagine all the experiences I've lost because I didn't reflect on them." And been using that quote for decades. A woman named Amy Markham, actually at Walmart. At the end of the day, we'd have everyone reflect, and she said that, and been using it ever since. And what a great message. So,
yeah, Doug, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? They are interested either in your books or in the referent group of having you come to their company event or just to come. What's the best way?
Yeah, absolutely. We created a website that goes along with the book. It's called buildingordiminishing.com. That can get you to the referent group. The referent group, our website is just thereferentgroup.com. But I'd send people because there's this incredible AI program. There's multiple of them called, I think it's Replit or Replit. I don't know how you pronounce it, but you just put in the left hand, like what you want the website to do, and it just creates it. It's crazy. I'm not getting paid to advertise for them, but so I think the website looks really good, built with that platform, buildingordiminishing.com. You can get you can download the introduction to the book if you want to read the first chapter before you check it out. You can connect with us there. And then LinkedIn. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn and happy to connect with people there. But we, especially with this book, Building or Diminishing, we're giving all the proceeds of the book to Tunnel the Towers Foundation, which supports veterans. 25th anniversary of 9/11 this year. I was just talking to their EVP of marketing earlier this week about what a big event that is for them. The whole story is around a firefighter who ran through the Battery Tunnel on his day off to get to the Twin Towers, ended up dying that day trying to help others. And they now pay off the mortgages for gold-ribbon families who've lost a service member or first responders who've been injured. But we're giving all the proceeds, and that's kind of based on my personality. Like, I really believe in the message of this book that it'll make people better leaders, will make people's lives better. And I just wanted to be unencumbered by the perception of self-interest. So because I'm not a great salesperson, but I would love to sell this book. So I'd love people to check out that website and then go from there if stuff looks interesting.
That's great. One of the things that I will be pushing for those of you that go to the ICF Converge conference in 2026, Dave and I will be presenting on Thursday morning. And we will be discussing what leaders really want from coaches. In fact, today we are going to record our first episode with a business leader, a senior business leader, and asking them about their coaching experience and what they're really hoping for from coaches. So please like and subscribe to our website. That would really help us. I think you'll also want to be sure you stay plugged in because this season we have some very special leaders besides Doug. We will have the president of the EMCC. We'll also have, for those of you that are the Coaching Habit fans, Michael Bungay-Stanier will actually be joining us in September. And we are sure you'll want to pay attention to that, as well as the recent one from Magda Mook, for the CEO of the International Coach Federation. Dave, what else did I miss?
You know what? I just want to thank Doug so much. I really appreciate having you on. I love the causes that you support. And I want to encourage our listeners to give back. And it's something that it's been a theme over many of our sessions. It's just so important. And we're in a field where we're kind of designed to give back. So I really like that you formalize that. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again, Doug. We really appreciate it. And until next time, keep leading with courage. Thanks for listening. If you love this podcast, please share it with another coach or leader. Make sure you go to the show notes to get all the resources from today's episode.